Hey, folks, welcome to what we call the shorties here at the Parkman Foundation on broken brains. And what we want to do is we usually take a question from our audience or a concept that somebody brings to us, and we talk about it just for a couple of minutes to let you know that a lot of the perceptions that we have of contact sports, equipment, and the brain are we just don't know a whole bunch about them, but I do. And that's why we always want to let me just kind of talk to you about certain things. And today, the subject is helmets. And we know that helmets are found in a lot of sports. You got football helmets, hockey helmets, you got helmets in lacrosse, you got headgear in wrestling. And this goes towards any helmet or any headgear out there. And when it comes to repetitive brain or repetitive head impacts from contact sports, regardless of it, these helmets are are a joke. Okay. And that's it. And why are they a joke? Why do I call it a joke? Is because we think those helmets are protecting our kids. And they're not. They're not protecting our kids at all, especially when it comes to the impact that impacts their brain in the futures. Now, are they necessary? Absolutely. You can't have two humans colliding at massive speeds and hitting hard, bony structures and expect nothing to happen. And that's the purpose of a helmet. The helmet out there is to save your life. Okay. That's it. It's just like a motorcycle helmet. Do you think a motorcycle helmet's really going to save you when you hit the ground at 30 miles an hour? No. If you're going to live, okay, you're going to survive, but it protects the helmet, the skull, from getting cracked. That is the only purpose of a helmet. You know, the design to keep your skull intact so it doesn't split open and but it does not protect the brain. You know, the brain, as you know, is encased in water and sits in hell and moves. It sits in the skull and moves. When our son decided to play football, we went together as a group of parents. We said, hey, you know, we need to do something about this. We went out and raised $15,000 and we bought NFL helmets for our son's football team. The entire team got it. They had the newest, nicest helmets you ever seen in your life. Did that help our son? Did it protect him from getting damaged and end up taking his life? No. And it wasn't just football. I mean, our son was a wrestler. He used headgear there. He was a snowboarder. I bought him the best helmets in the world for snowboarding. So just think of that. Our son played 3 different contact activities at 3 different times a year and still ended up losing his life. And he had the best helmets on for all 3 of them. Let that sink in. Okay. Because when we talk about the mechanisms of what's going on in your brain, that helmet does nothing more than transfer energy from that hit into the brain itself. The harder the hit, and with these helmets now being hard plastic, you actually will get more energy transferred from a helmet to helmet hit, from a hard helmet to helmet hit into the brain. And what happens to the brain? It moves. Hit after hit, shake after shake, movement after movement, different densities within the brain shift. They tear the neurons, they stretch them, they create damage, and then everything becomes inflamed. And because you keep hitting and those helmets keep causing the brain to shake, then that inflammation stays in place for long periods and eventually becomes toxic. And the outcome is a severely damaged brain, which leads to what we now see as a huge epidemic of mental illness. So when you buy your children, when you think about helmets, think of them about how they can protect your child from having a massive injury that could impact them the rest of their life. All right, because they do limit some damage from like severe car crashes, running into trees while skiing, all that. You want your child to have a helmet. Do not get me wrong. You want helmets, and helmets are good. Biking, all right? They're good for those falls, for those accidents. But when it comes to the repetitive nature of contact sports, these helmets do not they don't do us any good. Just think of all the hits that our children take in games, all right? When they're practicing in lacrosse or hockey or rugby or football, that brain shakes on every one of those hits. And the other problem that we have, and so those hits over time become thousands and thousands of hits. And yet that helmet has done nothing to stop those hits from happening. Some people say, they put a lot of gel in them and they make the helmets a little bit less damage. I don't care, because in the end, the brain moves. These helmets provide us as parents with a false sense of security that our child is safe. They got a helmet on. Yes, their brain is going to be harder to penetrate or crack open in a violent hit or a violent crash, but it is not helping them in any other way when it becomes to contact sports. In fact, helmets are dangerous because they allow our children to think, and the parents think, the brain is safe, that the head is safe. So they hit harder. They lead with their head. They weaponize their brain. And once the child starts learning to lead with that helmet, it's hard to get out, because the helmet, they think the head is protected. That if I get hit with this thing, I'm going to hurt that guy. And I'm protected. I got a helmet. Well, if I hit him with my arm, I could, break my arm or hit my pec. My body's not protected, but my head is. And that's not safe for our kids, and it doesn't lead to good tackling and all that, other junk that's out there. But in the end, these helmets do not help. And the science fully supports it. All the science out there shows that these helmets, even the Guardian caps that we talked about last time, they don't do anything for our children. Okay? When it comes down to the subconcussive nature of the brain. Now, will they lower the impact of a blow to the head? Yes, they can lower it by 10 to 20%. They'll reduce it a little bit, but the brain still moves. And that is why it's so important for us to look at not tackling, to not do any practice at all where contact is involved, because it's unnecessary brain damage. And it's something that our children just don't need. So look at helmets as a piece of equipment that prevents catastrophic injury, no doubt, worth every cent you're going to spend on it. But if you're going to allow your child to play repetitive contact sports with repetitive impacts, you're just throwing your money away, and you're throwing your child away, because they should not be in these sports while that brain's developing. And when they start playing those sports in high school, if you're going to let them, then you need to go ahead and make sure that coach knows that contact in practice is just unnecessary brain trauma. And find a coach that understands that you can teach skills. You can teach timing. You can teach patience. You can teach techniques. You don't have to teach brain damage. So helmets are one piece of protection for the brain from catastrophic, as I said, but they're not the solution. So be careful. There's a lot of people out there in the helmet industry that'll have you believing that the helmets are the golden key to success, that your child is as safe as they can be, and that is 100% an absolute lie. So take helmets seriously. They're useful, but they're not solutions. And that's what I got to say on helmets here on Broken Brains. We'll talk to you later. Remember to like us, pass us around, show everybody what we're talking about out here. And please, if when you comes to your kids and their melons, they only got one of them. So please take care of them. And we'll talk to you later next time on Broken Brains.